Kevin Costner is best known for blockbusters like Field of Dreams, Dances with Wolves, The Bodyguard, and Hidden Figures. He also starred in TV's Yellowstone from its beginning through the first half of its final season. Beyond acting, Costner has directed films and runs his own production companies. However, a lawsuit filed on May 27, 2025, threatens to put his legacy and business ventures at risk. The lawsuit comes from Devyn LaBella, a stunt double for actress Ella Hunt in Horizon and American Saga. Starting her career as a child actress in Friends, LaBella built a strong reputation in stunt work, with credits in Barbie, The Rookie, Yellow Jackets, and Horizon, the latter of which she claims led to the events in her lawsuit. Today, we'll examine the official complaint against Costner, but first, let's go over the allegations and his defense. LaBella alleges she was pressured into performing an unscripted, violent scene depicting SA, despite industry requirements, and the filming environment was non-private, visible to everyone on set, making the experience even more distressing. LaBella says the incident had a lasting impact on her career and well-being, leading her to file a lawsuit against Costner and Horizon production team. Costner's attorney, Marty, strongly denied the allegations, dismissing the lawsuit as a shakedown with absolutely no merit. As evidence, he released a text message from LaBella thanking those involved and expressing appreciation for the experience. Costner insists the incident was only a rehearsal, not a filmed sequence. He also points to her thumbs up after rehearsing, saying that it signaled she was comfortable proceeding if needed. Singer further characterizes LaBella as a serial accuser, citing her involvement in a past lawsuit against James Franco. LaBella's attorneys dispute this claim, stating that she was not a named plaintiff, only an unnamed participant in a class action settlement, a fact corroborated by the LA Times. Now that we've covered the allegations and Costner's defense, let's examine the complaint. I'll read most of it verbatim, but summarize procedural sections for clarity, displaying any referenced exhibits along the way. This lawsuit discusses sensitive topics, so viewer discretion is advised. If you found this breakdown insightful, support the channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future updates. Now, let's get started. Plaintiff Devyn LaBella, suing defendants Horizon Series 1, Horizon Series 2, Territory Pictures, Kevin Costner, and Does 1 through 10. This is a complaint for damages. 5 claims are in violation of the Fair Employment and Housing Act, those being 1, discrimination, 2, harassment, 3, hostile work environment, number 5, failure to remedy or prevent discrimination and harassment, and 6, retaliation. These are also in violation of California Government Code, as is 4, harassment, and 7, interference with the exercise of civil rights. Lastly, we have 8, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and 9, breach of contract. Introduction. On May 2nd, 2023, plaintiff Devyn LaBella, a female stunt performer, was the victim of a violent, unscripted, unscheduled graphic scene directed by Kevin Costner, owner, chief executive officer, and secretary of Horizon Series, Inc. The impact of this impromptu work demand on Ms. LaBella has been profound, not only upending a career LaBella spent building, but leaving her with permanent trauma that she will be required to address for years to come. LaBella files this action not only for the damages she has sustained, but to address the continued failures at the highest levels of Hollywood production companies to comprehend and address the impacts of performing in explicit and violent scenes and the need for intimacy coordination. The Horizon series is a 4-part film anthology chronicling a 15-year period in the settlement of the American West. The lawlessness of the American West made settlement particularly dangerous for women, who were often subjected to rampant objectification and violence. The films composing the series are written by, produced, directing, and starring Costner. The series set production leadership team consists almost entirely of men, with only one female member who works as a second assistant director. Chapter 1 of the Horizon series was released June 8, 2024. Chapter 2 was originally scheduled to be released on August 16th of 24, but the release was delayed, and as of this filing, no theatrical release has been scheduled. Chapter 3 of the Horizon series is currently in production in Colorado, and Chapter 4 is currently in pre-production. Neither Chapter 3 nor 4 have an announced expected release date. Jurisdiction and venue. To summarize, venues proper because the plaintiff resides in Los Angeles County. Concerning jurisdiction, while the remote scenes were shot in Utah, the travel coordinator and production financing office that paid for travel expenses are in California. All other persons, entities, including the actors, employees, producers, witnesses, guilds, and unions, are in California and mostly Greater Los Angeles. Any agreements entered occurred in California. Next, we have administrative prerequisites, which are basically the requirements to sue in the state of California for this type of lawsuit. LaBella filed as required in workplace discrimination suits with the California Civil Rights Division and the EEOC in 2024, expanding her complaint to include Costner and other entities by November, and was granted the right to sue defendants on December 11th. The parties include plaintiff Devyn LaBella, a U.S. citizen and resident of LA County, and summarizing the rest, but from what I gather, defendant Horizon series, called Horizon Hereafter, is a parent company of, or an administrative company, overseeing multiple aspects of the Horizon film series, and was formed by Costner. Horizon Series 2 is a production company and the party in which LaBella entered a contract. Territory Pictures is a specialty division of Treehouse Films, a production company. All entities are owned and appear to be principally managed by Kevin Costner in Los Angeles County. Statement of facts. Devyn LaBella. LaBella is a 34-year-old woman who grew up in an Italian-American family in the greater Los Angeles area, where she attended Catholic school and worked from a young age in her family's restaurant. In school, LaBella excelled as a gymnast, taking home 7 California state champion titles after obtaining a BA in psychology from the University of Redlands in 2013. LaBella was drawn back to her work as a gymnast and aerialist and decided to pursue a career in the entertainment industry. Ms. LaBella pivoted from acting to focusing on stunt work and signing with the top specializing stunt agency in 2016. She has worked consistently in stunts for the past several years, successfully competing against longtime veteran stunt women and landing these jobs. In 2020 and 2021, LaBella continued to level up to bigger companies and was increasingly selected for larger stunts in film and popular TV shows. These included Barbie, American Horror Stories, CSI Vegas, The Rookie, Yellow Jackets, American Pie Girls Rule, SWAT, Quantum Leap, 911, and over 81 additional titles. LaBella also achieved an impeccable and commanding reputation for herself. Jeff Barnett, stunt coordinator and member of Stunts Unlimited, has gone on the record stating, quote, I have used Bella a lot. She's the complete gymnast, contortionist, and extremely athletic. Devyn will make any coordinator's job easier. She's very helpful, responsible, and professional. In 2023, LaBella's career path continued to rise. The Horizon production team selected her to perform as Hunt's lead stunt double on her first run for a huge film with one of the biggest actors and directors known, Kevin Costner. As a run, LaBella was cast as lead stunt double for Hunt throughout the duration of the filming process. This was a major opportunity that she knew would lead to more work and features for her. LaBella knew that if she did well, doors would open. She was extremely excited to join the Horizon Saga production, especially knowing there would be 4 films in the franchise and that her coordinator provides talent for all of the projects of Taylor Sheridan, co-creator of the Yellowstone series. Since becoming a stunt woman, LaBella's earnings have increased on a yearly basis. She's also eligible for residuals from television and film releases. Had her career not come to an abrupt halt as a result of the events detailed in this complaint, LaBella's projected income would have been substantially higher in the coming year, especially with major projects in which she had been cast a stunt woman being released, thereby further increasing her visibility and reputation within the industry. Casting as a lead stunt double. Wade Allen, who heads Donut Shop Productions, which is based in Santa Monica, has cast LaBella on prior occasions. Approximately a month before the Horizon 2 series began production, Allen reached out to LaBella in California. As part of the inquiry, Allen requested LaBella's horse experience, availability, and specifications such as LaBella's physical description, measurements, skills, fit, and other assets relevant to the role she would double for. After discussing the role, Allen requested LaBella come to Utah for an audition. This was one of the rarer times that Allen had offered her an opportunity to work outside of Los Angeles. After LaBella auditioned for a stunt role per Allen's request in 2023, Horizon's series production team selected her to perform as lead stunt double for lead actor Ella Hunt throughout the duration of the filming process. Hunt had been cast during pre-production phase of the project in California, in adherence with the guidelines of LA-based SAGAFTRA, to which both Hunt and LaBella belong. Following her successful audition, LaBella entered into the above-referenced SAG Weekly Performer contract with Horizon Series 2 LLC. The agreement consisted of an underlying SAG agreement negotiated by Hunt, as well as a rider signed by LaBella. Together, the documents constitute the entire agreement between the parties, and all of the provisions related to performance by Hunt are applicable as well to LaBella. The agreement provides for specific contractual obligations relating to scenes to be performed by LaBella when auditioning, rehearsing, filming, or handling last-minute requests regarding a nude or semi-nude scene, simulated intimate moments, or other intimate scenes, including the mandatory involvement and presence of an intimacy coordinator. Specifically, SAG-AFTRA prohibits any last-minute requests for nudity or simulated intimacy. Rather, producers must provide at least 48 hours notice before call time to review and or negotiate a rider for nudity or simulated intimacy and obtaining a performer's consent. This applies even when a producer wants to make a change to previously agreed upon scenes. SAG-AFTRA also provides that when there is a scene involving nudity or simulation of intimacy, quote, a performer has the right to bring a professional representative or intimacy coordinator, unquote. Ms. Hunt's contract made that right mandatory, as it required the presence of an intimacy coordinator for all intimate scenes. Intimacy coordinators have been included in contracts negotiated by actresses after decades of top actresses voicing their discomfort in filming intimate scenes without proper consent, and a Me Too movement that shone a vital light on the abuse that can result from a too casual, often male-dominated set. Also, any such scene must be performed on a closed set, meaning only essential employees are permitted on set during the rehearsal or filming of such a scene. This extends to a ban of on-set monitors during rehearsal and production as well. As part of her role as the lead stunt double, LaBella's job was to step in for the actor during physical scenes and to perform the stunt while cameras were rolling. Such scenes are usually rehearsed and choreographed to ensure safety and accuracy. At times, a stunt double will also stand in for the actor briefly prior to filming, but it is not part of the job requirement or description. An intimate scene often requires the use of a stand-in or a body double, who lines up a shot or is just filmed as if they were the lead actor in the scene. However, when an intimate scene also calls for physicality, such as a SA scene, a stunt double is used and the scene is carefully choreographed. LaBella's job has only ever entailed stepping in to occasionally line up a shot, as she has never had to stand in for ad hoc scenes of a graphic nature. The standard in the film and television industry is for all intimacy scenes to have safety protocols outlined and agreed upon in writing well before the shot takes place. Once agreed upon, the protocols regarding intimacy action scenes cannot be added or changed without proper notification to and approval by the performers. Additionally, per the above, Hunt's contract required the presence of an intimacy coordinator for all intimate scenes. This provision held for anyone performing an intimacy scene in place of Hunt, including LaBella. Furthermore, SAGAFTRA and its contracts provide that if a performer refuses to film an intimate scene, producers are allowed to use a body double within the parameters of the original performer's consent. As such, LaBella was entitled to the benefits negotiated by Hunt, and all of the contractual obligations afforded to Hunt applied as well to LaBella. Prior to being selected as a stunt double for Hunt, LaBella had only 2 experiences with intimate scenes. Both occurred on the American Horror Story series, where she was filmed kissing someone in 2 separate episodes over 2 different seasons. Both times, LaBella had an explicit written rider and an intimacy coordinator present, consistent with the above referenced protocols surrounding the filming of intimate scenes. The scripted scene. LaBella arrived on set for the Horizon 2 production on April 11, 2023. The production was set to last until May 12th. For the first several weeks, LaBella professionally performed her stunts without incident. However, this experience changed dramatically. Due to its very physical nature, defendants informed LaBella that she would be doubling for the majority of a scripted, aggressive, and intimate scene against the character's will between Hunt's character Juliet and Sig, played by Douglas Smith, who was cast for the role in Los Angeles, California. The scripted scene was scheduled to be filmed on May 1st. The scene is described on May 1st on the call sheet as Sig wrestles Juliet down to wagon bed, gets on top of her with his hands clamped over her mouth. He snuffs the lantern, tells her to lie down, and rakes at her clothes. The call sheet specifically provides there would be a closed set for the filming of this scene due to the sensitive nature of what was being recorded. The call sheet also only specifies Smith and Hunt and her stunt double, LaBella, would be present. The call sheet does not call for Ivans to be present. As required by the appropriate guidelines and protocols, every movement and sequence was rehearsed multiple times with LaBella's stunt coordinator. Her stunt coordinator, Alan, was told days before the scene was due to be shot. The rehearsal of this choreography was also for the purpose of ensuring that no changes, surprises, or discomfort would occur when it came to the actual shooting of the scene on May 1st. Rehearsals of such scenes are imperative. These sessions are a serious meeting before a shoot to help the actors understand what a scene is going to contain. Moreover, having an intimacy coordinator on set is as important as the rehearsal. It's also a huge help to have any intimacy coordinator because there will always be a certain power imbalance on a set, especially one dominated by men and defined by what they deem comfortable. An intimacy coordinator speaks to the performers before, during, and after an intimate scene is filmed to ensure there are no surprises. They talk through what lighting is most flattering, lay out exactly which body part will be going where, and are constantly checking in to make sure the actors are comfortable. At approximately 7:00 a.m., the morning of the scene, a private director rehearsal took place involving only LaBella, Hunt, Smith, stunt coordinator Alan, and the intimacy coordinator, Ms. Cheney. The rehearsal took place on a stage with only these essentials crew members present. The rehearsal was professional, took place with no onlookers, and methodically walked all the scene participants, especially LaBella, through every step of what would be an aggressive and intimate scene. Later that morning, the scene was filmed. Hunt performed the acting scenes, and LaBella performed the more brutal and forceful parts of the physical action, such as being pushed down, wrestled, having her jacket ripped off of her, and having her hands held down. Ms. Hunt delivered the lines after being pinned down under actor Mr. Smith. They were present together during the shoot. Intimacy coordinator Chaney was also on set to monitor the filming of the inside camera scene in the wagon. The scene wrapped and no issues were noted. However, following the shooting of that scene, Hunt was informed that production still needed an insert shot of her face saying no. It is important to note that this scene required more than one take, and the actors needed to reset and replay the choreographed event more than once. When one take begins, there is a clear direction of action to indicate the scene film recording has begun, followed by a clear direction of cut, indicating that the filming of the take is over. This allows different departments, such as hair, makeup, stunts, and wardrobe, to reset the necessary clothes, hair, and makeup for the next take. These directions also allow a separation for the actors. After each take, Smith and Hunt, or LaBella, in the more physically violent scenes, separated from each other and allowed each other some space to reset themselves physically and mentally. The next take started with each actor at a specific marker. Once the director said action, the rehearsed choreography was performed. This repeated until all takes were completed. The repetitive nature of these scenes further emphasizes the necessity of the exhaustive rehearsals and the choreographing required of the actors prior to filming. Chaney was present for all of the intimate scenes that LaBella acted in Hunt's place on May 1st and addressed any issues that arose. I'm picking up where I left off. I have the AC on full blast. Hopefully it's not too loud. The unscripted essay scene. On May 2nd, 2023, LaBella was on set to perform a non-intimate scene as a double for Hunt. The call sheet scheduled her to be present at 8 a.m. The script called for Ms. LaBella to rustle through a drawer and perform as Hunt's double on a rain scene. The call sheet specifically states, quote, Juliet breaks through a chest drawer with Hugh's clothes, gets his carbine gun with handwritten instructions. Hunt was also scheduled to be present for a scene as per the call sheet, which is typically received the day before shooting and does not consist of the full script. All cast and crew called for that day were present on this set. Hunt arrived for her shot as scheduled on May 2nd. The script only called for Juliet to mouth the word no. However, when Hunt arrived, she learned that the director, Defendant Costner, had requested that additional scenes be shot with a different male actor, Ivans, who was also cast during pre-production in the Los Angeles area. In these new scenes, Ivans was to climb on top of Hunt, violently raking up her skirt. Costner, who was present on the set, specifically added this scene, which varied from the scene filmed the day before, which had not involved pulling up the actor's skirt. Moreover, this revised scene is not specified in the assigned call sheet for that day. The only scenes specified on the call sheet involving Hunt or LaBella were the previously stated innocuous scenes where Juliet rifles through the dresser, and a second scene where Sig interacts with character Juliet. No physical action is outlined on the call sheet. There is no closed set specified. There's no mention of Burke, or Ivans, interacting with the Juliet character at any point. Crucially, no arrangements were made for Chaney or any other intimacy coordinator to be present during filming. Characterized as a killer in film, Ivans' website describes him as standing at 6'2", 220 pounds, with extensive combat, stunt, and acting training, making him a presence to be reckoned with as a door kicker in film. Due to the ad hoc and violent nature of the sudden script change request, along with the failure to secure a contractually required intimacy coordinator for the scene, Hunt became visibly upset and walked off the set, refusing to do the scene. LaBella was completely unaware of these developments. Following Hunt's departure from the set, Defendant Costner asked LaBella to stand in for Hunt to line up a shot. LaBella was not a stand-in performer, and what Defendant Costner requested of her was not within the scope of her role as a stunt double. Nevertheless, and with complete ignorance of the nature of the shot, she agreed to help. LaBella was not informed that Hunt had refused to do the scene and had walked off the set. Moreover, the call sheet did not specify what the revised shot would consist of, nor did any instruction issue from the production crew that LaBella's involvement in the impromptu shot would go beyond standing in as a standard body double. She was not warned or prepared for Ivins to pull up or perform or engage in any action on top of her, and first learned that Ivins would mount her and violently pull up her skirt when he was already on top of her doing so. Defendant Costner was fully in charge of directing the action, filmed on May 2nd. The video village where the monitors were located for production and other essential crew to view the action being filmed were located approximately 20 to 30 feet away from the location where LaBella was being filmed. Defendant Costner went back and forth, being at one moment in close proximity to the actual filming site and in another stationed at the monitors in the video village where he would view the shot. Throughout the shooting on May 2nd involving LaBella, Costner was very hands-on and was either involved in or fully aware of every single thing going on, including coming up close to the actors, giving direction, experimenting with different angles of filming and takes, and checking the monitors only a few feet away. At no point in time during the filming on May 2nd did Defendant Costner leave to go to another location. As filming began, LaBella laid down in the wagon as Costner instructed. Costner approached her and directed that she hang her boots out of the wagon as the camera team and crew continued to test out and frame their shots. The camera was to broadcast the filming to the monitors located in the video village, where the director and producers watched. Normally, this would have sufficed as LaBella standing in for lighting or camera or whatever was needed. Then, without proper notice, consent, preparation, or appropriate safeguard measures in place, such as the project's intimacy coordinator being called in, Defendant Costner directed Ivins to repeatedly perform a violent, simulated SA on LaBella. As directed by Costner, this unscripted, unrehearsed scene consisted of Ivins mounting LaBella while miming and unbuttoning his pants, and using his body and arms forcibly pinning LaBella down, who was on her back underneath him. Ivins violently rustled LaBella's skirt up, as if trying to penetrate her against her will. SAGAFTRA mandates that a performer's performance or depiction in a scene requiring nudity or simulated intimate acts is conditioned on their prior written consent, which should take the form of a rider attached to their contract. A rider must be provided to a performer at least 48 hours before call time to review and negotiate the rider. Last-minute changes are prohibited. If a producer wants to request any change to what was agreed upon, the performer must be given an additional 48 hours prior to call time. In this case, production failed to provide LaBella any notice of the simulated intimacy that she was expected to perform, much less the contractually required rider. Notably, the simulated acts that LaBella was subjected to were added that same day. In fact, Costner had been working with a stand-in actress to conceptualize and choreograph Mr. Ivins' actions for the shot until moments before LaBella stepped on set. In complete contrast, the previous day's scene was thoroughly choreographed and rehearsed between stunt coordinator Alan and LaBella to ensure LaBella was precisely aware of all physicality and knew exactly what to expect during the scene. Smith, playing Sig, had also been present during rehearsals to ensure the choreography of what was to be filmed on May 1st was known to all participants. These were required protocols to ensure there were no unknowns in the middle of filming a graphic and violent scene. None of these safety protocols occurred on May 2nd. Further, during the days filming the day prior, stunts LaBella performed did not involve her personal undergarments being exposed. Rather, her jacket was ripped off while the clothes underneath remained intact. In the May 2nd shooting, there was no choreography outlined, no rehearsals done, no notice of the details of the scene given, and no provision for the presence of an intimacy coordinator. Indeed, Hunt was not present precisely because she had protested and refused to participate. The call sheet does not mention anything about what would transpire nor is there any notice of any last-minute decisions. Given the sensitive nature of this impromptu scene, the set should have been closed, in clear disregard for the privacy of the scene and in violation of the SAG-AFTRA contract. The scene was broadcast publicly on monitors for the entire crew to witness. Moreover, since the set was open, anyone could walk by and observe the scene being performed. Indeed, there were multiple onlookers, along with the producers, watching the scene unfold on monitors in the video village. On information and belief, the producers and other members of production who watched and filmed the May 2nd filming and failed to intervene to protect LaBella or to ensure that the filming complied with the requirements of the SAG-AFTRA contract were employed by or agents of one or more defendants. Thus, unlike the shots from the previous day, which were limited to just actors involved in choreographed situation with a stunt coordinator, an intimacy coordinator, and some of the lead production personnel present, and all non-essential production people excluded, on May 2nd, the entire experience was broadcast over monitors. As a result, over 100 people viewed as other camera department crew members on the open set called for Ivins to, quote, rake her skirt higher. Further increasing confusion and stress for LaBella, the scene on May 2nd had no clear direction of when the scene began or ended. Defendant Costner failed to announce or to consistently announce action at the beginning or cut at the end of the shoot. The action scene was implied as crew checked the lenses and cameras as Ivins lay on top of LaBella. After the action had already begun, there was no time or space to process or reject the direction that was given. Defendants failed to advise stunt coordinator Allen and intimacy coordinator Cheney that a scene calling for their presence was going to be filmed. Additionally, the hair and wardrobe departments were both unaware a scene was being filmed. Had they been aware, the departments would have been present to ensure proper resets and safety, such as intimacy protections. Just as had occurred on May 1st, there were multiple takes for this scene. Between each of the takes with Mr. Smith on May 1st, the actors had separated and wardrobe, hair, and makeup also reset the actors. The intimacy coordinator had the opportunity to check in with the actors. In complete contrast, on May 2nd, following the shooting of each take of the explicit scene, Ivins never separated from LaBella. After a take, he laid on his side with his face about a foot apart from hers, while still touching her and with his hand resting above LaBella's private part, as if this was still in the middle of the scene. There was constant connection and touching even between takes. This run-through of action occurred over and over as Costner experimented with different takes of the scene. LaBella was never given the opportunity to prepare for or consent to participate in this scene, much less object to it. To the contrary, without a discussion, explanation, rehearsal, choreography session, or stunt or intimacy coordinator present, Costner instructed LaBella to lay down, as Ivins, who was dirty and covered in sweat, climbed on top of her and then lifted up her skirt while pinning her legs down so she could not move. On May 2nd, Defendant Costner instructed Ivins to violently lift LaBella's skirt up higher and higher. Her personal undergarment was exposed from underneath her skirt, and LaBella's legs were pinned open by Ivins' knees. Costner specifically ordered Ivins to rake up her skirt a bit higher in a specific way so that the camera could capture a close-up or moving shot of this intimate part of her body. After giving this direction, Costner checked and approved the film shot from the monitors. As Defendant Costner directed Ivins to carry out the violent assault over and over and over again, LaBella felt the air pour over her intimate parts as her personal undergarments were exposed, even though, to LaBella's knowledge, costume underwear is typically worn in planned intimate shots. This exposure was especially humiliating to LaBella as she was menstruating at the time, compounded by the fact that between takes, Ivins' hands rested on top of the bundled-up skirt above her intimate area. Wardrobe immediately sewed up LaBella's bloomers after the scene as she requested. It should have been done prior to the scene, but the departments were not prepared or informed that the scene would be happening. There was no escaping the situation, and all LaBella was to do was wait for the nightmare to end. By virtue of Hunt's contract as well as her own contract, LaBella should have received the same benefits and requirements provided to Hunt and LaBella the day prior when filming the previously arranged and negotiated intimate scene. As such, defendants violated their contractual obligations owed to LaBella. The aftermath. Immediately after this scene, LaBella was left in the wagon alone. She experienced shock, embarrassment, and humiliation while attempting to process the situation. LaBella finally climbed out of the wagon and sat down next to wardrobe personnel, holding back tears. She was unclear whether she had to continue shooting the scene, but when Alan saw that she was upset, he assured her she would not have to. Soon after, she was told the production team would be using a body double for such scenes in the future. Despite her terrified feelings, LaBella was required to complete the scene depicting her shadow in the rain. After this, LaBella went to her car and called her husband and told him what happened on set, and then started crying as she recounted all the details. LaBella met with Alan and 2 other stunt coordinators for dinner, as she believed it was important that she should find out how this was allowed to happen. Upon expressing her outrage and concern, the male attendees blamed her for not speaking up. She now felt completely alone and disappointed, but as production had not yet wrapped, LaBella had to continue working and keep up a professional attitude. The day after filming the violent scene, LaBella contacted Cheney and specifically raised the absence of an intimacy coordinator during the filming on May 2nd. Her being required to do non-stunt work, especially given the sensitive nature of it, the lack of any preparation going into the scene, her exposure during filming, the demand that the scene be included despite the fact that it was not in the script, and the fact that the set was open rather than closed, among other issues. Over the next few days, LaBella experienced continuous reminders of the shame, humiliation, and complete lack of control she had experienced during the May 2nd filming. She experienced sudden bouts of crying on and off set. At one point, LaBella broke down in the hair trailer. LaBella flew home for a few days, hoping that this would help her regain control. However, she returned to the set after spending time with family so as to maintain her professionalism and commitment to her craft. The situation on the set upon her arrival was very awkward. The production team was now extra careful around her. She was directed to stay alone in her trailer and not be present on set, even though this resulted in her being dressed in costume for full days and then not used. Multiple people apologized to her over the course of days and made excuses for director Costner, all of which made her feel even more uncomfortable. This occurred up until production wrapped and LaBella returned home to Los Angeles. In June of 23, LaBella began therapy to address symptoms stemming from her traumatic experience on the set of Horizon 2, including intrusive, distressing memories of the traumatic event, sleep disturbance, fears of intimacy, and anxiety, among others. The workplace and stunt work in general, which was once a source of purpose and fulfillment, is now a place of heightened apprehension, and the whole experience has left LaBella feeling disposable and worthless. The thought of returning on set gives her an overwhelming sense of dread. Following her complaints of the harassment on set, LaBella was not hired back to continue her role as a stunt double for Horizon 3, which began filming in early 2024. Additionally, LaBella has not been hired on any of Alan's subsequent projects, even though he had regularly hired her on prior projects. Now let's briefly discuss the 8 causes of action. These 8 claims all stem from the core allegations before it, but highlight different legal violations the plaintiff asserts took place. The first alleges discrimination and unequal treatment based on LaBella's sex, arguing that production failed to provide equal workplace protections, creating conditions that led to the misconduct described. She seeks compensatory damages for lost wages, emotional distress, and harm to career opportunities due to gender-based discrimination, as well as punitive damages. Cause 2 alleges LaBella was subjected to unwanted conduct of an intimate nature and constitutes harassment. She claims she was pressured into performing an unscripted, violent scene depicting SA without consent or proper safety protocols. These actions created a hostile and unsafe work environment. LaBella is requesting punitive damages with injunctive relief to prevent future workplace harassment, along with compensation for emotional and psychological harm. In cause number 3, plaintiff LaBella alleges that production created a work environment where harassment and discrimination were pervasive. She claims the failure to provide proper oversight and protections resulted in unsafe and distressing workplace conditions, and demands policy changes within the production company and monetary damages for the distress caused by unsafe working conditions. 4. LaBella alleges she was subjected to repeated unwanted conduct of an intimate nature, and this claim differs from the second cause of action, as this one focuses on ongoing harassment rather than the specific incident involving the unscripted scene. She seeks additional damages for repeated misconduct beyond the initial incident, emphasizing ongoing workplace violations. 5. LaBella alleges the production failed to take necessary action to address workplace misconduct, and that defendants neglected to implement safeguards that could have prevented the alleged harassment and discrimination. She asks for injunctive relief to enforce workplace protections and damages for negligence in addressing misconduct. 6. LaBella alleges she faced adverse professional consequences for reporting misconduct, and specifically that defendants took actions that harmed her career in response to her complaints. As a result, she seeks compensation for lost job opportunities and career setbacks resulting from reporting the incident. Cause 7. LaBella alleges the defendants obstructed her rights by failing to provide a safe work environment. She claims their actions prevented her from working under fair and lawful conditions, and she requests statutory damages for violations of workplace protections. Finally, cause 8, in which LaBella claims the defendants' actions caused severe emotional harm, that their misconduct and failure to provide a safe work environment resulted in lasting psychological distress, for which she seeks compensatory and punitive damages. Under prayer for relief, plaintiff seeks a judgment in her favor against defendants and seeks an award for compensatory damages, punitive damages, and attorneys' fees and costs. Additionally, LaBella requests the defendants submit to anti-harassment and anti-intimate violence training, that an intimacy coordinator be required on all future productions, a public apology, and any further legal and equitable relief as the court deems just and proper, and plaintiff demands a jury trial. That wraps up the 2-part series on LaBella versus Costner and others. Now that you've heard the complaint, what stood out to you? Which claims seem strongest or weakest? Could this lawsuit reshape Hollywood's approach to productions like Horizon? If you enjoyed this series, support the channel by liking, sharing, and checking out more videos. Thank you for watching and for your continued support, as well as for subscribing. Until next time, stay safe and informed.